So the research question for me is, how do we improve the completion rates and the quality on a massive scale? So here are 3 suggestions offered not in humility, but maybe it should be. First of all, more constructivist approaches. Now, this is hard. This is not quite a subject-based thing. Carl Weinman, for instance, who's now teaching at UBC and is a former student here, I think, he's looking at constructivist approaches to teaching science. So I'm hesitant to say that constructivist approaches work best in humanities and don't work so well in the sciences. But if we're trying to get away from information transmission and into the magic that Sanjay talked about, then we have to look at more constructivist approaches in engineering and teaching as well. Another way is improving learner support. Could we increase the faculty online presence? What students want to feel is that when they're online, the teacher is there. Now, if it's 100,000 or 20 students, they still want to feel that teacher is there. You don't have to be there all the time. You don't have to respond to every student's comment. But if you have a discussion forum and you see a common pattern of student responses and you respond quickly enough, then students really appreciate that. Think of teaching like a medical consultant. You have a team of people working for you. You're providing the overview, but you're making sure that people underneath you understand what kind of quality assessment we want. And the third is to redistribute or rethink the costs of MOOCs. Maybe spend less on development and production, maybe move away from the video lecture because that's more expensive, to text-based. Incidentally, that would work a lot better for students in developing countries with mobile phones as well, because downloading video, many of them just can't do that in developing countries. So could we spend more on learner support and less on development? If you're thinking of 100,000 students paying, say, $20, maybe for an exam, which may be automated, but use that money for learner support, you might get a lot of learner support for that. Can you outsource learner support with quality controls? And that's beginning to happen in some institutions, partnering with edX to like San Jose State, to provide that learner support. So what I'm suggesting is that we identify the quality issues in the high-cost areas and seek quality computer solutions for those high-cost areas of online teaching. So why not rethink a MOOC to develop skills as well as content, increase learner engagement and activity, increase interaction with and between students, get students to find, analyze, and apply information, and get students to demonstrate learning through multimedia and assess.
Yeah, Dave Pritchard, MIT. Tony, I'd like to take, well, maybe a little bit issue or just a little clarification on the issue of the low completion rates. There's been a lot of talk about this. And you mentioned, for instance, the on-campus completion rate of 85% or 90%. What would happen if that course were open enrollment, that it was advertised in the New York Times, and there was a link to click on it so you could register? There'd be hundreds more, thousands more registrants. And it's not reasonable, I think, I would argue, to look at that number as having any significance in terms of being a denominator for the completion of the course. I would much more take the fact that a student made a commitment. This is an elective course, so I know here on campus I have students shopping around even the first week, but someone who does something in the second assignment I usually regard as having made a commitment to my elective rather than somebody else's. So if we look at MOOCs from that point of view, then in 6002X, the students who attempted a quarter of the second assignment, which is a very low standard, 40% of them got certificates. We taught a course aimed at teachers, a special open course, and 74% of the students who attempted a quarter of a second assignment completed and got certificates. So I think that those are really respectable completion rates. I think what is lost in the discussion is that the number of people who even try the second assignment, a quarter of a second assignment, is not that big on an absolute scale, just as the number of certificate earners is not big. So that's just a comment, really, it's not a question.
Yeah, I'm not even sure we should be talking about completion rates for MOOCs if we accept the value of them as educational broadcasting. My worry is that people are... I mean, the obvious question is, if students complete a certificate from MIT, why doesn't MIT admit them automatically to their course? Let me just say that I think the sit-down written exam will be dead in 20 years. We won't see any students doing that. What we will be testing students is on what they can do and what they can demonstrate they can do. And I believe particularly that things like e-portfolios, where students create a portfolio electronically of their work as they're going, will be the basis of assessment. And the reason for that is not only can you give a grade on that, which they can take to a future employer, the students can show the employer what they've actually done. And I think that will be a very powerful tool to change the whole assessment process. And again, could MOOCs operate that on a massive scale? I think that would be very difficult.